we have a nice set of rules here to work with. Is specifically runs on a 6-range chart, and whether it's oil or not, that's up to you guys. But this does require a 6-range chart, at least to work with the various settings here. Yeah, I don't actually see any settings in the setup rules here, but because of the entry requirements here, yeah, so this entry requirement here kind of is in line with the range settings and with the rules settings, with one of the rules as well. Yeah, so all combined, I guess if you change the size of the range chart, then that would also potentially affect the entries as well. So like right here is 1 tick below the EMA13, and this entry is 4 ticks from the high, right? So if you increase the size of the chart, then that's going to potentially that might influence some of the rules here, but it definitely looks like it's going to influence how the entries are set. So all right, so we'll kind of go through the rules, and then we have some screenshots as well to help us visualize what's going on here, right? So first requirement, so these are all examples for short trades, right? So we need basically the 5 and the 13 EMAs sloping down, trending down, right? So price needs to start below the 13 EMA. So the 13 EMA is kind of our primary moving average that we're working with. Number 3, price may be recently below. Computers don't know what maybe means. So if something's a maybe, then really it doesn't apply. I mean, if it says maybe it is, maybe it isn't, then really there's no need to include that, in your rules. If you can say maybe something is, maybe something isn't, then, it doesn't matter, really, does it? So we'll just kind of X that out, right? So as you're kind of, defining your systems here, you can ignore anything that you can state with a maybe. So just kind of throw that out and not burden yourself, or hinder yourself with something like that. All right. And so we're starting off with price below the EMA13, and then price reverses. And again, computers don't really know what slightly is, but anyways, price reverses and pulls back up and touches the EMA13. And this has to be, within 2 to 4 bars. So there is a limit there, right? So we can kind of get rid of the slightly there, because either price pulls back or it doesn't, and either price touches the EMA or it doesn't. So let's see. So it touches, or price slightly pulls through the 13 EMA, but does not touch the backside of this 3-tick channel. So we haven't gotten to that part yet, but you'll see that in just a moment here. And then when price reverses back down, one thing to note about this is that this is all happening, right? This is all happening. Well, actually, no, not all of this. So this is number 4 is a multifaceted, component, because it could include 2 to 3 bars there. Actually, what? I was kind of wondering where to place this here. Price reverses and pulls back up. Okay, so that should be there. So, price reversing and pulling back up is within 2 to 4 bars there. So the price touching the EMA13, or pulling through the EMA13, but does not touch this 3-tick channel, that is all within the same bar. So maybe we should call this like a 4A component there. All right, so yeah, there to separate things out, amongst their bars there. So 4A, all of this action is taking place within one bar. So actually 4A and 5 is all taking place within one bar there. So all right, and then the final requirement, price is reversing back down. So price basically touched the EMA13, and then it reverses back down through the EMA13, and then that is when try and get an entry in 4 ticks from the high of the reversal bar. Okay, so to help us kind of visualize all this, let's take a look at the chart first, and then we'll take a look at the C trade. All right, let's see. We'll get to this here in a moment. Let's take a look at some charts. Yeah, here we go. So let's zoom in a little bit. So here's a couple of examples, right? So here's 2 bars, that was below the EMA13, right? So the line in the middle, the thicker line in the middle is the EMA13, and the 2 outer lines is that 3-tick channel. So we can see price was below the EMA13. Oh, and the blue line is the EMA5, but we've already kind of determined that, that was basically tossed out because it was a maybe or maybe not. So we tossed out so we can ignore the blue EMA5 there, right? So we can see, once again, price was below the EMA13, and then price, reverses upward, and it punches through. And so this is a C trade which we haven't talked about the C trades yet. We discussed the L trade, but this is a C trade. So let's skip down to this L trade here, right? So price is below the yellow line, which is the EMA13, and then price comes up, and we can see, right, it touches it or breaks through it there, but it doesn't break through the upper channel, this 3-tick offset here. And then, so we can see all within one bar, right, price touches the EMA and then reverses back down there. So, and then there's our, 4 ticks from the high is our entry, right? So we want a resting stop entry order right there, 4 ticks below the high. And so the C trade, right? So all the rules for the C trade are the same as the L trade. The only difference is on a C trade, price actually breaks through this 3-tick offset channel here, right? So price punches through there, so pulls back a little further, and so then we want the entry to be a little bit higher. So just trying to get in with a better entry there. Let's see here. We also have some examples of a long trade. So here we go. So here's some let's take a look at the L trades first, right? So the L trades here, right? So we can see price, the entire bar is below the EMA13, right? The line in the middle, and then price pulls back and it touches the 13, but does not touch the lower part of the offset channel, right? That 3-tick offset channel, right? So we can see, right, price is touching the EMA13 and then reversing on the same bar there. And so here's a good example of a pullback here. So we can see we got a 1 bar and a 2 bar pullback. Yeah, so we actually had a 2 bar pullback there. Let's see. So here, so this C trade here, that looks like the high. And actually, let's see, this is an L trade. Yep. So here we go. So we missed an L trade right here. Yeah, so here's an L trade. And then price popped back up and then back down for a C trade there. Let's see, this L trade, so this took 1, 2. All right, so that was only a 2-bar pullback there. Yeah, so if this L trade didn't take place, you know, this could have been like a 1, 2, 3-bar pullback from the high there. So just to give us some context, or just to analyze kind of this requirement here of 2 to 4 bars. But, you know, because these are very short period EMAs, yeah, I can't imagine that these would take any longer than 2 to 4 bars. It looks like it'd be pretty difficult for a 4-bar pullback to occur. But I guess it could. You know, you could get bars just 1 tick offset from each other, chopping up and down. And then finally, you get that touch of the EMA13. All right, so there's the visuals for it. All right, so one thing to note, this is going to use a custom indicator that is available on NinjaTrader's ecosystem. Right, so hopefully you guys recognize that this is from NinjaTrader's user app share, which, let's see if I can pull that up. Yeah, here we go. So if you go to NinjaTrader's user app share page, which is on their ecosystem site, right? So they actually have a slightly different ecosystem site there. And oh, actually, here we go. It's showing up. Right now, it's at the top of the list. So if you sort by date, there, it's top of the list. And so again, that is this indicator here. So this is what we're going to be using for that. And the screenshot kind of illustrates for us now what these screenshots illustrate for us as well. All right, so give me a moment here to get those indicators on my chart. That's right. So, okay, so the name of this indicator is A1 oil envelope. So it's, you know, so it's going to be near the top of your indicator list here. And for this particular system here, set of rules, you want to set the envelope percentage to 0.03. Yeah, 0.03. And since this is on oil, which I need to change my chart, yes, if this is a percentage, then on oil, yeah, 0.03 would be 3 ticks. All right, yeah, so that works out to be 3 ticks. All right, let's put that on there. All right, and I need to switch over to a 6 range. There we go. And let's switch over to the oil contract. All right, so there's the envelopes, and apparently it doesn't actually draw the EMA. So let me add the EMA as well. All right, there we go. So here we go. Here's an example of a pullback taking more than 4 bars there. Yeah, there we go. So there's 3 bars there. All right. Let's see. And I'm going to work with a downtrend here since all the rules are written for a downtrend. Let's get those rules back up. There we go. All right. So here's a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So there's a 4-bar. 4-bar C trade. Yeah, C trade. Yeah. So this is going to produce a whole lot of signals here, we can see. Okay. Oh, okay. And one other thing to mention, right, which, so 4A and 5, right, they're all taking place inside the same bar. So that requires analyzing a bar while it is forming. All right, so that means we're going to have to go into BloodHound. So we're going to have to select BloodHound there, and we need to change the calculate mode. Right, so we can't calculate when the bar closes because it's too late. So we need to analyze as the price is changing. So we need to work with the bar as it's forming there. right? So that's a critical change there to the calculate operations. So, all right, so we have everything in place now. We know where to get the indicator for the envelopes, and so we need that envelope indicator and also the EMA13 as well. So, oh yeah, and one thing also to notice, make sure that this envelope indicator, it's automatically set to a 13 period there. So, so I didn't have to adjust that. So, okay, so yeah, we're now ready to get BloodHound open and get started. And all right, yeah, we're gonna skip that update for now. And so first thing, let's put in the file name for today's workshop. All right, 22nd. This month is almost over. And so now we can start working. All right, so first thing, we're going to create a new logic template. And let's see what to call this. All right, we'll call it the EMA13 L and C trade. Yeah, well, let's see here. All right, so back to the rules. So, all right, so let's have a minimum, a minimum requirement, of checking the slope of the EMA, right? So obviously we need the EMA to be sloping down for a short trade or sloping up for a long trade there, right? And of course, this is, these would be taken discretionarily, so as well. So for rule number 1, let's grab a slope solver. All right, let's connect that in. Move this over. All right, so the input, right? We want to replace the SMA with the EMA. But first, there we go. Let's give that a good proper name there. Okay, so now let's replace the indicator. All right, and EMA, and adjust the period to 13. And there we go. All right, so simple enough, right? If the EMA is sloping up, we get a long output. And if it's sloping down, right, so ever so slightly, we can see the EMA sloped downward, and we got a 1 bar of a downslope, and then it's sloping back up, and then sloping back down again. Okay, simple enough. Okay, rule number 2. The EMA needs to be, or price needs to be below the EMA. All right, so what price are we talking about? Really what it means is the bar, right? The bar needs to be below the EMA13 here. So in order for the bar to be below, that means the high of the bar needs to be below, right? For a short. And for a long, right, the low of the bar needs to be above the EMA13. So we're comparing, the high or the low of the bar to the EMA. Right, so we need a comparison solver. Let's connect that up. All right, so if it's a long trade, we're comparing the low of the bar. And if it's a short trade, we're comparing the high of the bar to the EMA13. All right, so input A, that's going to be the bar prices, right? The high and low. So let's adjust this to price. And again, if it's a long trade, right, we're looking at the low of the bar. We want the low of the bar above the EMA13. And if it's a short trade, it's going to be the opposite price, opposite of the low, so it'd be the high price. There we go. And then input B will be the EMA13. All right, EMA 13. So if we look at this, right, as long as the bar is above, right, so on this uptrend here, we can even see even this bar right here where my cursor is at, that low is actually above the EMA13. So it's hard to tell when your chart's compressed, but if you zoomed in there, yeah, you would probably see that. And then, you know, if the low goes below the EMA13, right, then we can see there's no output there. Right? And of course, in a downtrend, it's vice versa. As long as the high is below, right? So here, when there's no output, right, no red, then that means the high is above the EMA13. So, all right, so with those two rules, 1 and 2, we can now grab an AND node and start connecting things together. There we go. All right, so there's kind of a base minimum requirement there. And so now we get into the part where, you know, we're going to be looking for the bar that touches, right, that pulls back and touches the EMA13. Right. So this is our first requirement, and we can see that the bar that touches and triggers the signal actually takes place right afterwards. So our requirement is met, and then at some point the bar is going to come up and touch that EMA13 at some point. But we can see that there's no output. So the bar that's going to produce the signal doesn't have an output from this. So we need to take this output and shift it over 1 bar, shift it forward 1 bar onto the bar, excuse me, onto the bar that's going to generate the signal. And so to do that, I'm going to use a look back node here, like so. And if we zoom in here, right, so if you remember, this bar used to not have the signal, but now this bar doesn't have the signal because everything was shifted forward 1 bar, right? So now, but what's important though is that the bar that touches the EMA13 now has an output on it, right? It now has an output on it. So, and what does that shifting is the displacement, right? NinjaTrader's displacement function for indicators, right? This displacement is NinjaTrader's displacement that shows up on all indicators. And so we're just displacing things forward 1 bar. So, all right, so let's name this here. So we'll just call it a displacement of 1 because that's what we're using out of the look back node. So, okay. Now we need to dive in and we're going to get back to this 2 to 4 bar, you know, limit here. So, but for now, let's focus on 4A and 5, right? So this is the more complex part here. So price touches the EMA13. So what's the breakdown of that definition? Well, so in a short trade, the high is now above the EMA13, right? The high has to be above it. So, and then also the low of the bar is below it. right? High the bar above, low the bar below. And vice versa for a long setup. So the low the bar is below and the high the bar is above the EMA, right? So that's how you define if a bar is touching a moving average, right? High above, low below. So, all right, so let's create that. So again, so this is another comparison situation here, right? We're comparing the high to the moving average and the low to the moving average. So we're going to grab another comparison solver. Let's connect that in. Okay, so there's a name for this. So we want the high and the low. Well, actually, let's change the name here. This is called bar touch. Touches the EMA13. There we go. All right, so input A is, I'm sorry, wrong one. There we go. Input A, we need to change the type to price once again. So let's see, for a long output, we'll use the high price to generate a long output, the low price to generate a short output, and input B is going to be the EMA13, kind of like the last comparison solver. All right, change that to a 13 period. There. So, all right, so what we want is the high to be above, right? So when A is greater than B, we have an output. And so we get a long output. And then if the low is below the EMA, right? So we get a short output if the low is less, right? So if A is the low price and B is the EMA. So if the low is less than the EMA, then we get an output. So we get a short, right? So we're interested in these bars that have a long and a short together, right? So if you notice, whenever there's a long and short together, that's the bar touching the EMA. Let's look over here, right? There we go. So this bar here, touching the EMA, and we get a long and a short together. So we're only interested in the long and short bars together. So we want to remove the long only bars, and we want to remove the short only output, I should say, right? So let's strip out the long only output and the short only output. And to do that, we can use a function node, the long short modifier there. Connect that up. And the mode for that is going to be product or multiplication. Right? There. So I'm just going to name it the mode that it's in, product. Right. So there we go. So now we've isolated all the bars touching that EMA. Right. So, and so now we can add another AND node, like so. So there we go. So on a historical chart, right, we can see all the signals now. So, all right. So that is just kind of like the base, the basic function here of identifying that a bar, is touching the EMA. But we need to go further and we need to identify when price reverses and proceeds back down through the EMA13, right? So we have to, let's see the market. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, let's connect to the data feed. Yeah. Oh, great. And so here's an example of basically a busted trade right here. So we have a signal on this, but the price did not reverse back down, and the bar did not close below the EMA, right? So here's a good example of a signal that we need to filter out, and over here as well, right? So we have, right, two bars here where we need to remove those signals because the bar did not reverse. So for this long trade, the bar did not reverse back up. Same with this short trade. The price did not reverse back down and the bar didn't close down. Right? So we need to address rule number 5 here. All right, so there we go. So BloodHound back open. So we need to compare the closing price with the EMA13, and we need to make sure that the closing price is below the EMA13 for a short, right? And yeah, like here's a good long signal, right? The bar closed above the EMA13. So we have a solver here that's pretty close to what we need, right? It's comparing the prices to the EMA13, right? But instead of the high and the low, we now want to analyze the close of the bar. So what I can do is I can take a shortcut and I can go to my solvers list here, and yeah, we're going to take this bar touch, make a copy of it like so, and this time we're going to compare the close to the EMA13, and we can just set all these prices to the closing price of the bar like so. Yeah. All right, so there we go. There's our solver all ready for us. So now back on the logic board, we can go to the existing nodes, and there is that node that we just made. So, right, so taking a look at this, as long as the close is below the EMA, we're going to get a short, and if the close of the bar is above, we're going to get a long. So now, connecting that in, let's take a look. There we go. Here, let's shrink that up there. So if I take this and connect it in, there we go. So those two signals that I put the triangle on disappeared. Okay, so now let's just watch oil here for a little bit, and look, right there's a setup right in front of us. Actually, this would be a C signal. So yeah, I think oil trading is pretty much over for the day. So looks like, yeah, the market's going to move a little slowly here. But let's see, maybe we'll get another signal here. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I just need to adjust my EMA, adjust the calculate. There we go. So now we can actually see the EMA on the bar that's forming. But there we go. Price went up, broke, touched the EMA13, and then came back down and produced a signal for us. And here could be an L trade. And there we go. Yep. So that was an L trade. Well, it was an L trade until it closed up. So, but that right there illustrates that was a great example of what can happen when signals are generated while the bar is forming, right? So we can see that while this bar was forming temporarily, it met all the rules, and for a C trade, yeah, it met all the rules for a C trade there. And let's see, yeah, the entry would have been one tick below the EMA13, and so that, yeah, so that order would have been picked up. It would have been filled. Yeah, but then of course price reversed. So when you're building systems that are operating in real time, you got to be mindful of situations like this where as the bar is forming, it generates a signal as that bar is forming, but then at the last minute price reverses on you, and then the signal goes away, and you might be left wondering, well, why did Raven or Blackbird get into a trade? Because there's no signal there. Well, if your system is built to run in real time as on the bar that's forming, well, you have to visualize what did price do while that bar was forming, right? And so that's kind of like, the pros and cons of building a system that waits for the bar to close versus building a system that operates in real time, right? There's always a trade-off. So if you waited for the bar to close, well, then you wouldn't have gotten suckered into this trade, right? But if you wait for the bar to close, then you also get a worse entry price. So there's always that trade-off there. So yeah, it's a good thing that we actually saw that. Let's see here. And let's see. So that, yeah, actually on that bar there, it generated a signal, but the order would not have been picked up. So that one would have been okay. Let's see here. So let's watch this bar. So we might end up with another short L trade. Let's see. Actually, no. So this bar opened a little too low. Yeah, so this is probably can only be a C trade. But let's see. Yeah, I don't think this would have been picked up. So it did generate a signal there. And it's hard to tell, but I don't think that stop entry would have been picked up. Okay, so this now has turned into an L trade. Okay, so it did become an L trade. Yeah. And it looked like the stop entry would not have been picked up. I didn't see price. So after price broke the upper channel, I didn't see price pull back down enough to pick up that order. Yeah, so this one, but you can imagine though that once price touched the upper channel, this turned into an L trade, right? And so you got one tick below the EMA13. So, that's where the bar opened. So with the stop order resting there, price could have come back down, picked up that order, and then price moved back up and then closed up. So again, you would have been left seeing a entry order but no signal. So you'd be wondering to yourself, why was there a signal there? Or why was there an order picked up there? And well, that's because of price jumping up and down, building that bar. It'll produce signals will go away, the signals will come back, right? So those are things to be mindful of when you're doing your forward testing on a system like this, and you're left wondering, why was there a trade there? Well, look at what could have happened as that bar was forming. So, and actually, I'm going to see if there's a way to lock in that signal. Yeah, I think there is a way to lock in that signal once it occurs. I think a signal extender has a little extra, I wouldn't call it a feature, but a little extra operational mode here, where the signal extender I think holds on to the signal for us. Oh yeah, that's right. So here we go. So we have this new setting here, extend after intrabar signal. So let's set that to true. And let's make sure, we don't want any of the resets on here. All right. There. So with that little extra added function note here, let's watch this, and hopefully we'll get a signal soon. All right, well, let me take a look at the Q&A window while we're waiting on the market here. It is running really slow. So Dean is asking, so if a signal is forming while the bar is forming in real time, can you have the signal trigger at the close of the bar? Yeah, just set your calculate to on bar close. There's no reason to make it more, make the system more complicated than it needs to be. If you're waiting for the bar to close, just set the calculate to on bar close. There's no difference. There's no benefit of having the signal form in real time, but then wait for the bar to close. There's zero benefit other than, there's no benefit. Actually, you're just requiring NinjaTrader to do far more calculations than it needs to. So you're putting more CPU load on your computer. You're putting more processing load on your CPU. If you're trying to generate a signal in real time, do all those calculations as price is changing in real time, and then wait for the bar to close, you're just loading your you just put more processing load on your CPU that's totally unnecessary. So, and let's see here. So, yeah, shoot. So the signal extender, yeah, it is extending one. Let's see, set it to 0. Yeah, oh, cool. Okay, well, we can set it to 0 there. There we go. So we had, 2 signals there. And, here's another weird thing that we saw happening. The EMA was actually down while the bar was forming, but then the EMA closed up above the bar, even though we had a signal there. So, another weird, artifact of working with, working with bars that are forming in real time there. All right, let's see. Yeah, it looks like this is going to close up. All right, if we're lucky, this bar will close down on us. Nope, no such luck. All right, well, I'll try and keep an eye on this. Yeah, we might be hanging around for a long time trying to wait for the perfect setup again to test this signal extender here. But from what I'm seeing so far, with the signal extender, extending after interbar signal set to true, and then extend for 0 bars, basically it's locking on to that signal for us. So that way, if we get something like, let's see, what was this? Yeah, so I think like this bar here, right? I think this bar, the EMA was sloping up, and so I think price came down and then popped back up, and that would have generated a signal, and then submitted a stop entry probably right where my cursor's at. It's hard to tell because we can't really know exactly where this EMA would have been in real time as it was, jumping up and down here. So the stop could have actually been at the open of the bar. So, but in any case, I'm pretty sure that this bar would have generated a signal, and so the signal extender would have locked onto that for us. So, but of course, you got to remember, guys, that if you refresh your chart, you're going to lose that stuff, right? Because remember, these signals are generating in real time, and then they disappear. And so the signal extender will hold on to that signal that gets generated in real time, but it disappears when the bar closes. So when you refresh your chart, well, your bar closed in the wrong way, and so there's no signal. So things that are generated in real time will disappear if something reloads the chart, if something refreshes the chart. So, that is unfortunately just kind of a how NinjaTrader operates. So, all right, let's just watch this last bar here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we have a signal, and there we go. Perfect. So this bar did generate a signal, but then closed up. So at least as long as the chart doesn't get reloaded, we can see why why an order might have gotten filled here. So I'm not sure that price came down far enough to actually fill that. Yeah, because remember the entry is 4 ticks from the high of the bar. So yeah, I'm not sure that price retraced enough to actually pick up that entry. But as we saw a while back, it can, it could have. So at least now we can see those intrabar signals until we reload the chart. So if we do anything that causes the chart to reload, then bingo, those intrabar signals disappear on us. So, all right. So let's move on to the C trade at this point here. And so the one difference here on the C trade is, let's see, price actually touches the backside of that 3-tick channel. So now we're actually going to utilize this custom indicator here, this oil envelope indicator here. Right. So yeah, so if price touches it, let's see. There we go. Here's a good example, right? So price comes up and touches the backside of the envelope. And so then what that does is it adjusts the entry price for that stop entry, right? So there. All right, so I'm just going to rename this function node. So its intention is to hold the signal. Again, as long as the chart doesn't get reloaded, it'll hold on to that signal. Let's see. Let me just center everything first. There, that looks good. All right, so actually this is the L trade. So, all right. So I'm going to adjust the name here of the logic template. And so what we're going to do now is so we actually want, now let me explain first. We want 2 separate signals, right? So obviously the L trade always happens first before it can turn into a C trade, right? So an L trade is going to happen first, and then an L trade can turn into a C trade, right? So, so with an L trade, right, our stop entry is 4 ticks from the high, and so Blackbird needs a differential C trade so that it will know if it needs to adjust the entry to 1 tick, right, from the EMA13, right? So we have different locations for that stop entry depending if it's a C trade or an L trade, right? So, yeah, so therefore we need 2 separate signals here. So the C trade is almost like the L trade with just this one difference here, price touching the backside of that channel as explained before. So what we're going to do is, so basically we created the C trade, or I'm sorry, the L trade is like the basic basis, of this system. So with the basis signal created, we can now make a copy of it. And, oh, I didn't hit it. There we go. Make a copy of it. And then we'll call this the C trade. There we go. And we now need to make an adjustment here. Let's see what. Yeah, I was thinking we could just make an adjustment to this solver, but a C trade also needs to touch the EMA13 as well. So actually we just need to add another requirement. Yeah. So we just need to add another solver. Yeah, let's just build one from scratch, so we can kind of walk through this. Yeah, I was thinking I could take. Yeah, I could take an existing solver and just modify it, but I don't. Yeah, I don't think that'd be as easy to understand. If so, I'm going to build it from scratch. That way we can fully go through the whole process and understand what's going on here. Okay, so we're going to grab a new comparison solver. There we go. Like so. All right, so let's see here. So let me find one. There we go. So for a C trade, there. So we actually have a couple of C trades right here. Right. So for a C trade, the low needs to be below the lower channel line. Right. So low is below the lower channel line, and for a short, it'd be the opposite. The high is above the upper channel line. Right. So, all right. So let's give this a name here. All right, so we're comparing the low to the lower channel and the high price to the upper channel. So there's quite a cryptic description there. All right, so for input A, right, that's going to be the bar prices again. So for a long trade, right, we're looking at the low price of the bar. So let's set that to low. And so for a short trade, it's going to be the opposite side of the bar. So that'll be the high price. And now input B, right, that's going to be the lower channel or the upper channel of the indicator. So let's open this up. Now we're going to use the A1 oil envelope. And make sure we adjust the envelope percentage there to 0.03. So for a long trade, we want to know if the bar touches that lower channel, and if it's a short trade, we're looking to see if the high touches the upper channel. So there's the plots that we want to utilize, like that. But this time we're going to reverse the outputs, because you notice right on this we actually got a short output for a long trade here, right? Short output, short output. So that just means that we need to reverse the outputs here. Like so. There we go. So now, right, if that low is below the lower channel, we're getting along. So, yep, there we go. All right, the high is touching the upper channel. So all we have to do, let's connect that in, is connect this extra step in there. All right. So looking at this, let's see. So we do have, okay. Yeah, so here Yeah, so I guess this bar here kind of violated the setup. Yeah, because the bar was not above the EMA13. So that was not a proper C trade. Yeah, not a proper C trade there. So this one was, we do have a bar, right, above the EMA. And then, yeah, so the bar opens down and then punches through the lower channel and then closes up. And again, so this was not a C trade because this bar was basically straddling the EMA. Yeah, so it didn't qualify. Let's see. Yeah, so price would be above the EMA 13. You know, if it was a long. Yeah, remember these are all short. So if it was a long, price needs to be above the EMA 13. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's see where we're at. Oh, there we go. So there's a C trade. Yep, and there's the C trade that we were just looking at. And there we go. There's two more C trades. Another one. So great. That does it. I think we're done. Let me just take another look at the rules here. Oh, yeah, that's right. We never did get to this 2 to 4 bar limit here. All right, so let me find an example. Actually, let's take a look at the L trades. All right, so this definitely took a while for price to get back there. Yeah, so that took 7 bars. So I'm just thinking how to accomplish this. Okay. So I have an idea. Oops. There. So I'm going to test something out here. And if this works out, I'll explain what I'm doing. But first, I just want to test it and see if it works first. All right, well, this may work, but it also might have some unintended side effects as well. So I'm not totally confident, but we'll build it in. We'll build this little test here anyways, and it can easily be disconnected from the system, if it's not wanted. So here's my idea here. So here's what I'm thinking. So let's zoom in here a little bit. Right. So I'm using Chameleon. Let's see, maybe we could also use the Donchian channel. Yeah, let me use the Donchian channel instead. Sorry. Here, here we go. All right, so I think a Donchian channel with a 6 period works. Yeah, okay. So here's the thinking. So basically, this 4-bar limit here is it's going to start from the low, a recent low here. And so once we have this recent low, as price is pulling back, right, to the EMA, pulling back to the mean, so from this recent low, we can start counting here. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when we get to the 5th bar, we can disable that signal. Yeah, so the side effect would be that, so once we get to this 5th bar and we disable the ability for signals, then price would have to move, let's see, yeah, so price would have to break the Donchian channel. Yeah, I think this will work. So this signal will get through. So we got 1, 2, 3. This is on the 3rd bar. So when we get to the 5th bar, here, so what we're doing is we're comparing, the low of these bars, and if they're above the Donchian channel, then we'll start counting here. And when we get to the 5th one, right, we can then disable the signals, and then once the Donchian, once the Donchian starts moving lower, then we can reset the counting. Yeah, so as long as the Donchian channel is moving lower, then we're okay. Yeah, and we'll start the counting once the Donchian is flat. We'll start that counting. Yeah, so let's see. So back here, we didn't get any signals, but back here, just kind of thinking through this. All right, we get to the 5th bar, and then signals are disabled, prevented. And then here we go. So on this bar, let me grab an arrow. So on this bar, the Donchian starts moving lower, right, which then resets the counting. Yeah. So, again, this is very subjective here, as to whether this will be beneficial, but it can easily be disconnected from the system here, if it's not liked, if it's a hindrance to the system, we can just disconnect it. So. All right, so let's see. I'm going to work right here. And all right, yeah. So I'm going to work with the C trades to build this counting system here. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to need, let's see, I need to know if the Donchian is flat or sloping down for a short, or flat or moving upward for, let's see. Now I'm going to need a couple things. So I'm going to grab a slope solver and a comparison solver. Yeah. So if the Donchian is flat, I want to start counting. Yeah. So let's grab a comparison solver. And let's see. All right. So if we're in a long trend, we're going to be comparing the high of the bar, and if it's a short signal, the low of the bar. And comparing that to the Donchian. All right, so input A is going to be prices again. And let's see, so for a short, we're looking at the low of the bar. So for a long, it's going to be opposite, the high of the bar. And input B, that's going to be the Donchian indicator there. All right, there's the Donchian. And we're using a 6 period. Right. So we're using a 6 period. So as we count on the chart here, we got 1. So the low's right here. So that's a 1 period, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. But as we're counting bars, right, on the pullback bars, this is bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, and bar 4. So this, right, would be the last bar that's allowed to generate a signal. So by the time we get to this 5th pullback bar, which is the 6th bar, right, on the Donchian, we can see the Donchian requires a 6 period or 6 bars. So when we get to this 5th bar here on the pullbacks, that will be our signal, or that will be our condition to prevent the signals. So, all right, so let's see here. So for the Donchian, we're using the lower channel for shorts and the upper channel for longs. Let's see, yeah. And we need to reverse the outputs here. Okay, so what I'm interested in is when the low of the bar is above the Donchian, right? Because the Donchian's marking the lowest low, right, of the last 6 bars. So once a bar pulls back, then the low is above the Donchian. And so we're going to start getting a short output here. Right. So here, like right here, right, we had a low, and then, it looked like, we had a low, the bar closed up, so it looked like, we might have had a pullback. But, of course, we didn't. The bar closed down, but, we got at least one short signal out of this because this was a possible pullback to the EMA, but obviously didn't last very long. So, right, so we're going to start counting these short signals, and vice versa, we're going to start counting. Let's see, where's a good example? any good examples there. Man. Okay. Well, yeah, here's something. So, right, so price is moving up. The Dacian stepped up, you know, and we got a couple of bars of a pullback here, which actually, yeah, we got a C trade right here. No, actually, this wasn't a C trade, but could have been. But in any case, right, we had a high, and then we could start counting there. So we want to count, you know, these long signals once price starts pulling back. So there we go. All right. All right, just gonna circle my little working area there. All right, so what's going to happen here is this first signal will be allowed, but then these other two signals are going to be blocked or prevented. So let's see. All right. So we have some short signals here to start counting. Right. And to count them, we're going to use the signal counter. All right, so what we're counting is 5 signals, and our look back period is 5 as well. And let's see, so the output style, we want digital. And so here, here's bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, and bar 5. So there we go. So we get a short output right there. There. And, yeah. All right. So once we get a short output, we're then going to hold on to that using a toggle node. And let's see here. All right, so for the toggle node, we need to make a couple of adjustments here. So the opposite signal is not actually going to turn. It's not going to force off. It's going to do nothing. So, so what's going to turn the toggle node off? So you can see, right? Obviously, the toggle node gets turned on. You know, right now, the toggle node gets turned on, and there's nothing turning it off. So that's what we need to build next, is something that turns the toggle node off. And so what's going to turn that toggle node off is when the Dacian channel, the lower Dacian channel, starts sloping back down. Right? So as long as, right, so if price starts moving back down, then that'll reset our counting mechanism. So now we need a slope solver of that Dacian channel. All right, let's see here. All right, so there's the Donchian channel, and we're using a 6 period. And so let's see, all right, so we're interested in a downslope of the lower channel. So the short, right, so when the lower channel starts sloping downward, right, we want a short output. And if the upper channel starts sloping upward, then we want a long output. All right, so basically vice versa. So once you figure out, one side, then you can just reverse, pick the opposite, for the reversal side. Okay, and let's take a look. Yeah, so there. So as long as the Donchian is stepping down, right, it's sloping down, and we're getting we're getting a short output. And if the Donchian channel starts stepping up, we're getting a long output there. So once this Donchian starts stepping down, right, this short output, right, from the lower channel sloping down, this short output can then be used to reset the toggle node. So let's connect that in there. Right. So on the toggle node, right, so we want to turn the short output off. So that means for the reset, we're using the same signal to turn it off. Right, so it's not the opposite signal, right? So when the Donchian sloping down, it's generating a short, and we want to use that. We want to use the short output from the slope solver to turn the short output of the toggle node off. So that's on signal. So we're going to set it like that. And there we go. Right? So we have a short output, right? So we get, let's see here. Yeah, so we get our first pullback, no short, second pullback, third, fourth, no short, and then we get to the fifth, right? And so that's been too many pullback bars. And then we get this short output. And then as soon as the Donchian channel, right, in other words, once price starts moving back down and the Donchian starts moving back down, then, right, the short output turns off. And so we can start the counting again. Let's see. So I'm expecting there, oh, no, that's right. That was only 2 bars. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Yeah. All right. Now, this short output is actually the opposite of what we want. So we actually want to invert everything. Right? So we want to invert everything. So we built a signal that identifies when to stop trading, right, or when to block trades. But remember that when you're building a system, an output is what you need to get a signal. But we built an output to prevent a signal, so therefore we need to invert it because we want to use this signal to prevent a signal. So therefore we have to invert everything. So we can, let's see, actually does the toggle node have an invert? No, oh yeah, value if on, yeah, there we go. Value if off, there. All right, so yeah, we could just use the value if off right there. Set that to 1. All right, so just reverse the outputs here. And so now, right, so now the toggle node is telling us, okay, as long as the Dacian keeps falling down, and then if the Dacian stays flat for a while at some point, right, if the Dacian is flat for too long, you know, and then starts sloping up, then we want to kill the signal, right? And no output is what will prevent a signal from happening, right? No output prevents a signal. So we can now, so there's our signal. Let's see here. All right, so I'm going to rename this toggle node here. There we go. So it's a 4-bar max pullback. There. And so now, looking at, right, so these last 2 signals are going to get blocked now. Like so. There we go. Yep. All right, so actually, I'm going to try and find an actual practical or a real, oh yeah, that's right. So this signal right here. Yep, sorry. I should have been working down here. There we go. Let's connect that in. There we go. So those signals now disappeared, right? Because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then finally we get to the 7th bar, which generates a C trade. And so there we go. So that was killed because it was too many pullback bars there. Yeah. All right. So, okay, so now let's see. So I need to include this logic here into the C trade. The C trade here. Let's see. And if this was BloodHound 2.0, I could just copy and paste it over, but it's not. So let's see here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the C trade. There we go. And I'm going to make a copy of the L trade. There we go. Rename it to the C trade. And the only difference was this one extra solver. Let's see. Yeah. So we were comparing the low of the bar to the lower EMA channel and the high of the bar to the upper EMA channel. Right. So I just need this one solver added in there. And there we go. And so that is the difference, and that's what makes the C trade. So, okay. Let's see. Yeah. So without our little 4-bar max, pullback restriction there. Yeah, those 2 were C trades. Yeah, because it touched the upper channel there, the upper EMA channel. Yeah, so there. Connect that in, and now they're gone. All right, now we're done. All right, we'll just center this a little bit. Here. All right, so yeah, I think that does it for the BloodHound part. And so we'll continue this in tomorrow's Blackbird workshop to set up Blackbird to place these stop entry orders, based on the various signals. So, all right, so with that, yeah, I think we're done with this topic here.